My husband's estate of $80 million as well as this house will be passed down to me. We don't have any children, so everything is mine. My sister-in-law speaks with such triumph. And my name is Emma, a 45-year-old part-time worker. My husband and I have two sons, a senior and a sophomore in high school. My eldest son is taking the college entrance exam this year. He aspires to be a lawyer and has been studying diligently. He has wanted to be a lawyer since he was a small child, possibly influenced by my older brother Oliver. My brother is a lawyer, and about a few years ago, he established a law firm and even had a few lawyers. My eldest son, who had grown up watching my brother do this, loved to study and always got good grades, even in elementary school. When my brother had heard that my eldest son wanted to be a lawyer, he was overjoyed and encouraged him. My eldest son told my brother whenever they meet, "I will be a lawyer like you, uncle." My brother chuckled as he responded, "Hurry up and become a lawyer and follow in my footsteps." When my brother, who was married but had no children, came to visit us, he gladly plays with my sons and spoils them. My brother's wife was 10 years younger than him. She was an eccentric, or rather a difficult woman who never visited our house, so we never really spoke to her. My brother and I lost our parents when we were young. So when I was about to get married, my brother took place as a parent, and after I married, he married as well. My husband and I were relieved when we knew that my brother was planning to marry a young woman. But when we actually met his fiancée, I was surprised at how grumpy she looked. We were expecting a happy faces because she was about to marry my brother, but she looked at us with a sulky look. I said, "You two are great together," in front of my brother and his fiancée, but I told my true feelings when I returned home and was alone with my husband. I was curious as to why she appeared so unhappy after the marriage was finalized. My husband seemed to agree with me and responded concernedly, "She wasn't a particularly pleasant bride." It can't be helped what we care. My brother married his 10-year younger fiancée. Shortly before they got married, my brother bought a house, so my husband and I took our children and visited them to celebrate. The house was magnificent and astonished me, as expected of my brother because he runs a law firm. But we did not see my sister-in-law, so my husband jokingly said to my brother, "Has your wife already left you?" My husband was obviously joking, but seeing my brother's stern expression, my husband and I became nervous. According to my brother, whenever there is something, sister-in-law returns to her parents' house. Today was their mother's birthday, so she is staying over to celebrate. My husband's shoulders slumped, thinking he had said a bad joke. Suddenly, my brother asks us with a straight face, "If I ever can't have children, can I adopt one of your children?" I thought my brother was joking, saying something like that, but he looked serious. I couldn't answer his unexpected suggestion, but my husband laughed and replied, "We don't know what the future holds, so let's discuss it when it happens, okay? If you are okay with our children, you are free to adopt whichever you want." My husband didn't seem to take it seriously and dismissed it, but I was concerned about the adoption, and more importantly, that my brother and his wife were not getting along. It wasn't my place to intervene because it was their problem, but I was concerned. After that, when we visit my brother's house, or he come over to our house, it was always just him. My sister-in-law never showed up. My brother also never mentioned her, so I avoided asking him about her. They had been married for more than 10 years, and I have almost been forgotten about her existence. This year, my eldest son was accepted into his dream law school. My brother brought up about adoption again, when he came to our house to celebrate my son. Like I said before, "Would you allow me to adopt either of your kids?" he asked. My brother and his wife were unable to have children, and so he asked the question once more. They had just gotten married the last time we discussed it, so there was no sense of hurry, but this time my brother seemed serious. Nonetheless, my husband appeared to take it lightly and responded quickly, "Would you prefer to have our eldest son since he aspires to be a lawyer?" My husband said it so simply, but I was cautious, because it is a major life-changing decision for our sons. Though they were going to be adopted, they would be with my brother. It is their uncle, so my sons would be fine, but I was worried about my sister-in-law. I was concerned that she would mistreat my son, who were not her biological child, so I asked my brother, "Is your wife in favor of adopting?" My brother replied with a sour smile, "Don't worry about her. We've already discussed it." I was relieved to hear that they had already discussed it. But I couldn't make up my mind right away, so I decided to discuss it with my two sons and then make a decision. They are already in high school, so I wanted them to make their own decisions. We didn't go any further that day, but a few days later, I got a call from my brother's lawyer's office. They said he had collapsed. I rushed into the hospital. I found the staffs from the law firm waiting for him with worried expressions. My brother had a stroke at work and was rendered unconscious. After I arrived, the law firm staff left. They also said that they couldn't reach my sister-in-law. I called the landline, but she didn't answer, and I didn't have her cell phone number. My husband and my second son later arrived, but I really couldn't reach my sister-in-law. My second son eventually discovered a smartphone among my brother's belongings. We unlocked it and began looking up for her number. She answered angrily when I called using that phone. "I told you not to call again. I will sue you." I began to speak while she was yelling in a terrible tone. "It's Emma, Oliver's sister. My brother passed out and was taken to the hospital." Then she started talking gently when she realized it's me on the phone. "I'm so sorry. I thought it was Oliver. You said he collapsed?" I told her about my brother's condition and which hospital he was taken to, but she responded happily. "I can't go to the hospital right now because I have things to do, but please notify me as soon as you hear anything." She then hung up the phone. I wondered if she had more important things to do now, even her husband is sick. Now that we know my sister-in-law cannot be any help, we decided to take care of my brother. Since my eldest son had finished his university entrance exams, and he was relaxing at home most of the time, he visited my brother every day on my behalf. My brother never regained consciousness and remained in critical condition, but my sister-in-law never called nor visited the hospital. About a week after my brother was hospitalized, I called my sister-in-law again. She answered the phone quickly and gleefully. "What's the matter? Did he die?" I wanted to yell at her for being so rude, but I responded quietly. "He is still alive. Why don't you visit the hospital?" She retorted as if she irritates me while I hold back my rage. "I'm not a doctor, nor am I a spiritual healer. There's nothing I can do for his recovery." I became even more enraged by her demeanor, so I hung up the phone. I began to suspect that my brother wanted to adopt one of my sons because he had given up on having children with his wife. I think they weren't getting along. When my brother's marriage was finalized, I asked him how they'd meet, and he said they met through a marriage counseling agency. Maybe my sister-in-law married him because he was a lawyer and she wanted to have a good life. This thought enraged me even more, but when I mentioned it to my husband, he said something even more crueler. If Oliver dies in this situation, his wife will inherit the entire estate, since they don't have any children. So my brother came to celebrate my eldest son the other day and spoke to us about adoption. Maybe it was because he was thinking about his inheritance. I wish I could have decided at that time, but there was nothing I could do. After my brother left that day, I casually mentioned it to my two sons, and my second son told me that he would be happy to be adopted. Unlike my eldest son, my second son has no goals at the moment. He appears to believe that if he is adopted by Oliver, he will have an easy life. I expected the first son, who looks up to his brother, to want to be adopted as well, but the answer surprised me. "I don't want to be adopted, because as the eldest son, I will take care of you, Mom and Dad." I was overjoyed, but I also knew that my eldest son, who aspired to be a lawyer, was the right one to be adopted by. I was disappointed that I can't complete the adoption process on behalf of my unconscious brother. I do not want my brother's inheritance, but I also do not want to give even a penny of his property to my sister-in-law, who appears to be awaiting his death. I could only hope for my brother's recovery, but he never recovered. My brother passed away a few days later, and I had no choice but to contact my sister-in-law. "My brother recently passed away. Can we do a funeral?" My sister-in-law, who had been waiting the news of my brother's death, responded cheerfully. "Everything is up to you. Please do not appoint me as a pallbearer. I don't want to deal with any formalities." "You—" When I was about to lose it, she quickly hung up the phone. After all, my husband and I planned the funeral. Staffs from the law firm helped us in a variety of ways. My husband was also concerned about the firm's future, but my brother had taken care of that. Though my brother was the firm's representative lawyer, he delegated management to someone he trusted, so the law firm as a corporation will continue to operate without a problem. Many people came to my brother's funeral, and so many wreaths were brought that they couldn't fit it in the hall. Then I realized how wonderful my brother was once again. My son also assisted at the funeral, but when my second son saw the presidents of major corporations, politicians, and others had also attended, he was really frustrated. I knew I should have been adopted. I had no idea how amazing he was. My husband and I both felt we could kind of understand his sorrow. I was the pallbearer, but no one asked why my sister-in-law wasn't there, and no one mentioned it. I wondered if we were the only ones who knew my brother had married. My brother and his wife did not have a wedding. Instead, they only went on their honeymoon, so even the relatives may have missed it. If this was going to happen, I almost wish they had never married. No need of a wife who does not attend of her husband's funeral, and I regret not allowing him to adopt my second son sooner, because I believe she would take all of my brother's estates. With the help of the law firm staffs, my brother's funeral was completed. I invited everyone to my brother's house for a meal and to thank them. My brother will be able to rest in peace because of all of you. We were all very sad. That's when my sister-in-law appeared, wearing a flashy pink coat. I addressed her as if she had planned to arrive just as the funeral wrapped up. "After all this time, why did you come here?" With a big smile on her face, she speaks loud so that everyone could hear. "My husband's estate of $80 million, as well as this house, will be passed down to me, his wife. We don't have any children, so everything is mine." For some reason, when she said it triumphantly, my brother's subordinates burst out laughing. We looked at them confused, unsure why they were laughing. My sister-in-law glared and yelled at them. "What exactly are you laughing about? You're so impolite." While smirking, one of the lawyers responded, "We know that you're officially divorced. We all knew the result of your divorce settlement the day before he collapsed." When I first heard this fact, I exclaimed, "What? You were divorced?" I looked over my sister-in-law's face and saw her staring at them, who had just said the truth with the most terrifying expression ever. When she clenched her teeth, the other lawyer started talking. "I also heard that you were charged alimony in conjunction with your divorce. Because your affair caused a divorce, it is inevitable." My sister-in-law yelled, glaring at the lawyer who said it. "I'm not required to pay alimony, am I? I no longer have anyone to pay." She spoke mockingly, but there was no way she could compete with a legal expert, and she was quickly retorted, "The right to alimony will also be inherited, so you will have to pay it to Emma. She's the inheritor." Then I realized for the first time that I was my brother's sole inheritor. If their divorcement was finalized and our parents are gone, so I'm all that's left. She seemed to realize this too, and looked at me with a horrified expression, causing me to step back. But she seems unconvinced and began yelling once more. "Don't I get half of the estate now that divorcement is settled?" A dismayed-looking lawyer responds, "Didn't Oliver give you money when the divorce was finalized? I have a receipt certificate." He also purchased the house before the marriage, so it is not the subject of property division. I enjoyed watching her being lectured by the lawyers regardless of what she said. She seemed to recall something and shouted while laughing a little, "There's the life insurance, I should still be the beneficiary." She impressed me with her attitude in a situation where everyone around appeared to be her enemy. She said she changed the beneficiary of Oliver's life insurance to herself. However, the lawyer was also quick to deny about the life insurance. Oliver is a firm man, so I think he changed it when the divorce was finalized. I searched my brother's valuables and discovered the life insurance policy. When my sister-in-law saw this, she took the life insurance policy from me and looked impatiently at the beneficiary, but dropped her shoulders in disappointment. When she returned the certificate to me, I noticed that the beneficiary was me. My sister-in-law, realizing she was getting nowhere, yelled out her true feelings without thinking. "I married a lawyer because I thought he is wealthy, but I've only got a little money. In addition, I have to pay alimony. This is a huge mistake." With a grimace, the lawyer replied to her. Oliver said same thing. He said he shouldn't have come for the advice of a marriage counselor. He bemoaned the fact that he had made a huge mistake. My brother had never said anything like that to me, but he had always been truthful with his coworkers and subordinates. Unable to refute anything, my sister-in-law rolled her back and left my brother's house. Later on, she will have to pay the alimony in installments, but she didn't have a job. She began looking for a job quickly, but she has never worked seriously before and quit immediately. She re-registered to the marriage counseling agency and looked for a wealthy man in order to make quick money. And she found a wealthy man, told him she needed money for marriage, and cheated him out of his money. But the man caught on right away and reported her to the police. She was arrested for marriage fraud, according to the lawyer who works in my brother's law firm. To be honest, no alimony was ever paid to me, and when I went to see the lawyer about it, the story came up. In dismay, the lawyer told me, now that she has been apprehended, alimony payments may be impossible to obtain for the foreseeable future. Alimony is not something I am interested in. I was more interested in seeing her suffer a terrible fate. I believe my brother would agree, so I would like the police to investigate thoroughly her other crimes, etc., and charge her as a felon in court. My family moved into a house that my brother had left behind after unexpectedly inheriting his property. My husband and sons were ecstatic to be able to live in a big house after previously living in an apartment. My eldest son is studying law harder than ever before. He observed his brother's colleagues and subordinate lawyers arguing with his sister-in-law, which made him yearn to be a lawyer. Though he was never adopted by, I hope he will carry on my brother's legacy and become a great lawyer like him. Only my second son is upset and disappointed that I inherited my brother's entire estate. He claims, "To be honest, I wish I was adopted by uncle so I could have inherited everything." The second son smiled, half-jokingly.
We used the money from your mother-in-law's savings for this trip. It'll eventually become Tyler's inheritance anyway, so it's fine, right? My brother and his wife rushed over immediately after my mother passed away, not to offer condolences, but to get her bank book and withdraw her savings before I could submit her death certificate to the government office. You used Mom's money? Huh? Trying to suppress my anger, I asked Carol, who casually responded, "Yeah, we spent about $10,000 on the trip, LOL. The audacity of my brother and his wife, who conspired to use my mother's money without permission, made me furious for a moment. But then I remembered something. Right, these people don't know. I couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha. My condolences. Carol looked puzzled by my sudden laughter. What's wrong with you? Did the shock of us using the money make you go crazy? Of course, I wasn't going crazy. I just couldn't help but laugh when I imagined the surprised faces of my brother and his wife when they found out the truth and their miserable fate. Their carefree days were probably numbered. I am Samantha, a very ordinary office worker, raised by kind parents. My parents were always good-natured, constantly thinking about what they could do for others. Their kindness sometimes led them to being deceived or burdened with unfair responsibilities, but I admired them nonetheless. However, my brother Tyler had a completely different personality. He was always calculating what was beneficial for him and acted accordingly. To him, our parents, who would go out of their way to help others, were incomprehensible. As Tyler grew up, his rebellion against our parents intensified. In high school, he began to demand more money from them, saying, "If you can afford to do something for others, you can give me more allowance." Despite accepting Tyler's personality, our parents never changed their beliefs. Their unwavering character only frustrated him more. Tyler's negative feelings towards our parents only grew stronger in college. Taking advantage of the fact that our parents paid for his tuition, Tyler spent his college days partying and eventually failing a year, which caused them trouble. Parents should naturally devote themselves to their children, right? Or can you only be kind to others, but not your own family? Tyler continued his selfish behavior with such justification. I once heard him brag to his friends, "My parents are so gullible, LOL." After graduating college, Tyler moved out and started living on his own. Although he left home without notice, he complained, "I can't live a decent life on my first paycheck," and kept coming back to our parents' house to get living expenses before returning to his own place. Our parents worried about him and kept giving him money as requested. When I got a job, I decided to support our parents financially in place of Tyler. "Samantha, it's your hard-earned money, so you can use it however you like." Although my parents said this, I wanted to help them, so I continued to give them money as if it were their grocery expenses. This lifestyle continued for several years, and Tyler, who only showed up to ask for money, unusually invited me and our parents to a restaurant to talk. At the meeting place, a beautiful woman was sitting next to Tyler. "Dad, Mom, Samantha. Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Carol." The woman introduced as Carol bowed her head slightly. "I've decided to marry Carol. We'll be busy preparing for our new life and the wedding, but I hope you'll support us." I thought support meant something like, please take care of Carol. But it seems my older brother had a completely different idea in his head. He asked our parents to pay for his wedding and new home. Knowing our parents' inability to say no when it comes to helping others, he skillfully persuaded them to cover all the expenses. Even after the wedding and the purchase of the new home, he continued to get money from them. Carol, his wife, became accustomed to this and started living more extravagantly. However, this lifestyle didn't last long. Our father's health deteriorated, and he was hospitalized. Even with insurance, hospital stays are expensive. To ensure our retired parents wouldn't struggle financially, I suggested to my brother that we both share the burden of the hospital bills. I've been living at home and getting help from Mom and Dad, and you've received a lot of financial support from them too, right? This is the time to help them out. But my brother didn't agree. What? Why should I? It's Dad's fault for not taking care of his health. He neglected himself while helping others. That's his responsibility. After that, my brother stopped visiting our parents' house altogether. Neither he nor Carol visited our father even once while he was in the hospital. My mother and I desperately took care of him, but he passed away. Even when we informed them of our father's death, they didn't help with the funeral arrangements. They showed up briefly at the funeral, but didn't greet our relatives properly and left. Our relatives looked at them with disdain, but they probably didn't care. My mother, who had bravely acted as the chief mourner during the funeral, began to lose her energy after the funeral, clearly affected by the loss of my father. Tyler, Mom has been feeling down lately. She wants to see you. Can you visit her at home sometimes? When I asked my brother, he thought for a moment and then said, by the way, what happened to Dad's inheritance? It all went to Mom. It seems they had decided that's what they would do when Dad was still alive. I see. So Mom has the money now, right? Feeling a bad premonition, I warned my brother immediately. Like I said before, Mom is mentally weak right now. Don't try to take her money, okay? I want you to come and cheer her up. What's the point of going if I can't get any money? It's not worth it. When I insisted that we wouldn't give him any money, he never visited our parents' house. And then, half a year after our father's death, our mother passed away too. Even knowing our mother's weakened state, my brother never showed any concern. When he learned of her death, he rushed back to our parents' house. I thought he would fulfill his duty as the eldest son during the funeral. But as it started, he and his wife disappeared. I called his cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. In the end, I took on the role of the chief mourner instead of him and managed to finish the funeral. It was a few days later when I finally got in touch with my brother. Ah, Samantha? This is Carol. When I called my brother's phone, Carol answered. Tyler is busy with boarding procedures and can't answer the phone. Boarding procedures? Carol, where are you? We're at JFK Airport. We're leaving the United States in a few hours, LOL. Are you leaving the United States and going abroad? Yes, we're going on an international trip. I was surprised at my brother and his wife's decision to go on a trip abroad, right after our mother's death. But I was even more shocked by what Carol said next. We're really grateful to our mother-in-law, you know. Thanks to her, we're able to enjoy this luxurious trip abroad. Haha. What do you mean by that? Well, we used our mother-in-law's savings for this trip. It was going to be Tyler's inheritance anyway, so why not? From Mom's savings? How did you get that money? When we visited her house, we borrowed her bank book and seal. We knew we wouldn't be able to withdraw money once the death certificate was submitted, so we hurried. The real reason they rushed to our mom's house after her death was to get the bank book and withdraw the money before I submitted the death certificate. So you used Mom's money? Trying to suppress my anger, I asked Carol, and she casually replied, Yes, we already spent $10,000 on the trip expenses. It's a good thing Tyler's plan worked out. For a moment, I was furious at the audacity of my brother and his wife for using our mom's money without permission. But then, I remembered something. That's right. They don't know. I couldn't help but laugh. Ha, serves you right. Confused by my sudden laughter, Carol asked, "What's wrong with you? Did the shock of us using the money make you lose your mind? Tyler is the eldest son, so it's natural for him to inherit more, right?" Laughing, I answered, "Sure, that's fine. I'll give up my inheritance so Tyler can inherit everything. That was your plan all along, right?" Upon hearing this, Carol happily said, "Oh my, you're quite understanding." By the way, please make sure to arrange for all of Mom's mail to be sent to your house from now on. Don't worry, it's a simple task. I'll let Tyler know. Carol hung up the phone cheerfully. I didn't hear from my brother again until they returned from their trip. "Samantha, Carol told me you're giving up your inheritance." "Yes, but more importantly, did you handle the mail forwarding for Mom's mail?" "Yeah, I took care of it as soon as we got back." "Good to know. You're not going to change your mind later, are you? You won't say you should have inherited after all?" "Of course not. I still believe my decision was the right one." "Well, it's only right that I, the eldest son, inherit everything." Ha. My brother said this and ended the call in high spirits. But a few weeks later, he called again, sounding panicked. "There's a collection notice addressed to Mom in her mail." "What's this about?" "Oh, is it from the bank?" Our parents always wanted to help people in need and would accept any request. This included money matters. If someone asked to borrow money, they would even borrow from the bank to lend to others or become a guarantor if asked. As a result, their debt grew more and more. The amount of debt was far greater than the savings, so inheriting would clearly put them in the red. "Did you know about this?" My brother raised his voice. "You knew Mom had debt, right? Why didn't you say anything?" "There was no point." "What? You're saying it's meaningless? You knew about the debt, so you gave up your inheritance, right? If I had known, I would have given it up too." "That's impossible." "Why the hell is it impossible?" "Tyler, you took money from Mom's bank account to go on vacation, didn't you?" "So what? What does that have to do with giving up the inheritance?" "It's a big deal. What you did is considered a simple acceptance of the inheritance." "Simple? What does that mean?" "Explain it so I can understand." I explained to my brother that by withdrawing money from our deceased family member's account for his own use before the inheritance process, it was seen as a simple acceptance of the inheritance. "I've never heard of such a thing." "Of course not, huh? Not many people would even consider using a deceased family member's savings for their own selfish desires, so it doesn't come up in conversation." "You're just making stuff up because you want the inheritance for yourself. I have a lawyer friend, you know. They'll find out if you're lying." My brother hung up the phone and apparently told his lawyer friend what I had said. He called back later, but his previous bravado was gone. "Samantha, you were right. I can't give up the inheritance now, it seems." It appeared the lawyer had given him the same answer I did. Finally, my brother realized he had inherited the debt. He had always begged our parents for money, never knowing they were accumulating debt behind the scenes. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it was his own fault for contributing to the debt. Still, my brother desperately tried to find a way to avoid paying it back. He and his wife, Carol, probably didn't have much savings since they spent their earnings freely. It was clear they didn't have the means to pay back the debt. My brother tried to sweet-talk me. "Hey, Samantha, our parents are gone, and it's just us siblings now, right? Isn't this the time to join forces?" "Join forces? What do you mean?" "I think we should work together to pay back our parents' debt. Now's the time to show our filial piety. So forget about the inheritance and help me pay back half the debt." I sighed heavily at my brother's selfish proposal, which was too little, too late. "What are you talking about? When Dad was in the hospital, I said we should help our parents together, but you pushed me away." "I was busy at the time." "No matter how busy you were, you didn't visit Dad in the hospital even once, and you didn't support our grieving mother afterward." I don't want to hear the words filial piety from someone like you ever again. With nothing left to say, I left my brother hanging. Have you ever done anything for someone else, Tyler? I know you took advantage of our kind parents, but there's no one who will help someone who can't do anything for others, even if they're family. But if you don't help me, Carol and I can't pay back the debt by ourselves. Are you going to abandon your brother? We're family. When Dad was in the hospital, you abandoned him, saying it was his own fault for not managing his health. This time, using Mom's savings is your own fault. I regret that, okay? I've changed. Have you? I still think you're just desperate to reduce your own debt. And even if you've changed, the person you should apologize to is no longer in this world. It's too late. I cut off my brother and hung up the phone. I had no intention of helping him after all the trouble he had caused our parents throughout the years. Afterwards, burdened with debt and unable to live the carefree life they once had, Tyler and Carol's relationship quickly turned sour. However, living separately would only cost more money. Unable to afford even the moving expenses, Tyler and Carol had no choice but to continue their married life together, bickering all the while. At first, they tried to save money and pay off the debt little by little from their salaries, but it didn't last long. Neither Tyler nor Carol could forget their luxurious lifestyle, and they would secretly spend money behind each other's backs, causing their debt to never decrease. As a result, they blamed each other for their inability to reduce the debt, further damaging their relationship. Their marriage continued to crumble in this vicious cycle. On the other hand, I finally found the time to properly mourn our parents. I remembered how, during our parents' funeral, countless attendees tearfully expressed their gratitude for the help our parents had provided them when they were in need. Realizing how many people our parents had helped made me feel even more proud of them. It was ironic that my brother, who had never shown any gratitude and had always caused trouble for our parents, ended up shouldering the debt that resulted from their acts of kindness. Even though they were drowning in debt, I still admired our parents for never giving up on helping others. With these thoughts in mind, I continued to pay my respects to our parents at the family altar every day.